Okay, so moving on now to our case about California. Okay, page 30 of New Wider World. First things first, just highlighting where. So California is on the west coast of America. It has a border with Mexico. Okay, major cities of San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Sacramento. Sacramento is actually the capital. Okay, very wealthy state, huge population, big, very diverse economy, big agricultural economy. Obviously, also you got Silicon Valley here, which is where all the tech companies like Apple and Dell and HP and Facebook and Instagram, all them, that's where they're all located. But if we look historically at some of the migration, okay, so you have a big Asian community have moved in across the Pacific Ocean. The Spanish came back hundreds of years ago. That's where they settled. Okay, California was originally part of Mexico and then taken back by the States. When the rest of America, when the east coast of America and the north, a place like Detroit, when it was built on the Karen Street, when all of those places crashed, a lot of people came to California. So you have Americans, Asians, Spanish, European settlers as well, looking for gold over 100 years ago. And then more recently you have the Mexicans, and I've added in another one. More recently still, Venezuelans and Hondurans. So people coming from Latin America making their way up to California, okay? So a massive melting pot. Also, I used to live just south of LA. I spent some months living there, and I was working in a very low skilled job, just working in a restaurant, okay? And a lot of the staff were Mexican, okay? I met quite a few Mexicans, and we all worked together. Lovely people. They were all there legally at the time, but just I remember distinctly a huge amount of Hispanic people and Mexicans living in that area. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to look at this case study, and then I'll set your homework. Alright, so moving down the page, Mexican workers, okay? Hispanics are people of Spanish-speaking countries of Latin America. Compared with its rich northern neighbour, which is America, Mexico has a relatively low standard of living, not a huge amount of jobs, and poor education and health provision. So again, Mexicans see the USA, and especially California, as kind of a huge opportunity to improve not just their lives. Remember, they're probably trying to improve kids' lives as well. At one time, only the men migrated, returning when they'd earn enough money. Now, most bring their families and they stay there permanently. So the situation of migration has changed massively. Okay. Legal and illegal. Okay, estimates suggest that between 1 and 2 million Mexicans try and cross the USA into the USA, cross that border every year. Okay, many try it illegally. So, what are the jobs? What's going on here? All right, Mexican workers are viewed as a drain on Americans' social security and welfare system. Okay, the migrants take the harder, dirtier, seasonal, not permanent jobs. Okay, more dangerous, less skilled, and less well-paid jobs. So in your homework, this bit here covers quite a few of the answers, all right, for question 5. So these are the types of jobs Mexicans take, but a lot of Americans believe that they're losing out on to Mexicans for the jobs they want. But in reality, Mexicans usually take a lot of the jobs Americans won't do. Okay, large numbers find seasonal work in farming or agriculture, so it's not even a job for the whole year. All right, maybe picking fruit and stuff like that. Despite the low pay by American standards, some migrants can earn more during 3 or 4 months in the US than they can back in Mexico. So it's actually worth their while going up there for a summer and maybe picking fruit or planting fruit and then come back to Mexico, because they earn the US dollar so much more valuable than the Mexican peso. All right. They also work in construction, hotels, restaurants, like I just said about my experience, and so on. All right. Just to finish off with this case study, as we've said before, most of the migrants are young, they have little money and few qualifications. Unless they have a green card makes it legal for you to live and work in the USA. They cannot work legally and are forced to take very low paid jobs. Okay, they also have to move around regularly wherever they're living and their jobs to avoid detection. There's a whole government workforce which just goes around searching for illegal immigrants. All right. Many of those who do get jobs find their income is insufficient to obtain decent accommodation and are forced to live in ghettos or the poorest districts. There are also quite a few of the time, especially women and children, are forced to do, they're put into human trafficking and prostitution and stuff because they can't afford the living standards. Okay, so again, that kind of outlines the benefits and negatives of migration. Okay, they benefit the country because they work in jobs people won't, but they suffer massively from inequality. All right, the homework is on, I think, page 32 or 30. Okay, so page 33, question 2b. Okay, I want you to do this bit and this bit. So what are the problems any immigrant might face when he or she arrives in a new country? As far as the following. So what issues with prejudice? That's the discrimination. Language, accommodation, and employment. So what problems might they face? There's 5 marks for this, so you need to have 5 good points. So what struggles might immigrants have? Language and culture should be easy. Accommodation and employment should be quite easy. Give 3 possible benefits to the country that receives these immigrants. Okay, so again, look at page 25. What are the benefits, the good things that migrants bring? We're also going to make some notes about that just now. Then you're going to jump down to question 5. Okay, so you're going to do all parts of this, and again, it's very easy. Name a state that in the US that attracts Mexican workers. Why do many Mexicans try and enter the US illegally? So what are the reasons they go there? What does Mexico not have that America does? Give 2 reasons why the USA tries to stop Mexicans coming in and also needs to attract seasonal Mexican workers. Many Mexicans move to LA. Describe the types of accommodation and jobs they find there. I'd only accept the last 2. I'd only accept good detailed answers because we literally just went through that in the video. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint and make some notes. Okay, so if we go back to the PowerPoint, there's a couple of little tables of notes. Now, this is important. Impacts of migration, but this is the impacts on the country from which migrants leave. So a lot of people always focus on just the impacts in the countries where the migrants move to, but they also have a huge impact on the countries they leave behind. Okay, so please make sure you write down this sentence and be very clear. Advantages, disadvantages. So when a group of people, remember we said it's usually people aged between 20, 30 and 35 or 20 and 40, so a lot of young workers. Okay, if there's a shortages of resources, foods, less people means more resources for those who stay. So again, in a lot of these countries, people might struggle to have enough food. So if people do leave, it's an advantage because there's more for the people who stay. People who leave often send money back to their family in the home country, which helps its economy and helps the family. All right, so a lot of people did this, especially the Indians and Pakistanis who moved to the UK. They used to work and then they'd send huge amounts of their paycheck back to their families back home, which is a huge advantage. Okay, remember about that currency as well. The currencies in places like the UK and America are much stronger than most other places. So if you were working for a month in the UK and sent home some of your wages, it would be a big deal to the people living back in those countries. Returning migrants bring skills and knowledge. So again, if you want to work away somewhere and then you come back, you bring new knowledge. Disadvantages, there's this idea called a brain drain. So it's mainly young and educated people who leave a place, taking with them skills and their future abilities as workers. Families and communities are reduced and begin to disappear if too many people leave, and a gender balance are left. Okay, so it is usually males who leave, which means there's a lot of females left, and the gender balance does not equals amounts of men and women. Now this then is another table. We have to make a note of this one as well. This is the impacts on the country receiving all the immigrants, where the migrants are moving to. We've already kind of done this, but again, I just want to highlight some of them. So, advantages: economy grows as more and more workers come in. Jobs the locals refuse to do are filled, helping business and economy. Services can benefit, nurses and doctors coming and joining the health service. Like the Notting Hill Carnival, okay, new cultures and events are added to the host country, so it actually makes it more kind of rounded or holistic. Disadvantages: there can be pressure on services. Too many kids trying to get into school places, not enough housing for everybody because there's too many people arriving. Healthcare, there's too many people in the country now getting sick, not enough hospitals. Language and cultural barriers can lead to unrest and conflict, so a lot of fighting because of religion and race and so on. Disputes about race, and crime rates can increase as well. Okay, so if people move in but don't have work, they often resort to crime. So this is the advantages, disadvantages to the country that people move to, and this will help you with your homework. Again, just to clear up, that's your homework 2, part B only. Question 5, do all the parts of that. And that is due a week from today. Okay, good work.